The show starts in 3, 2, 1, go.
Good morning, CaneSport. It's the 23rd of December, 2024. I'm Gary Ferman, the publisher of CaneSport.com, joined once again this morning by our managing editor, Matt Shodell, as we discuss the news of the day. And Matt, the news of the day is really the news of the weekend. Miami added 4 more commitments to its transfer portal class. Not quite what I expected, to be honest with you. I thought that this would come in with considerably more numbers, but you got to be euphoric because unlike past years, it doesn't seem like they're really reaching for anybody this year. They're being extremely selective in who they go after, who they take. And I don't know that we know yet whether these are free agents, as you like to term them, or not, but I think it's safe to say that Miami is certainly showing more discipline in the transfer portal, for better or for worse.
I mean, I disrespectfully disagree. I don't want to respectfully disagree with you. They tried to get some guys that they didn't get, which is okay to say that. John Mateer at quarterback. They tried to get a Lloyd Avon at running back. They were put out feelers. They had, Eric Rivers visited. I'm not sure they really wanted him, but he visited, right? They paid for him to visit. Zachariah Branch was one they were looking at. DeZon Stribling, they had scheduled for a visit. J. Michael Sturdivant was a guy they were inquiring about. At tight end, they had a guy that they wanted to bring in for a visit, Caleb Odom, who committed elsewhere before he could come in. They were chasing another guy, Micah Riley, who picked Texas A&M. I can go on and on. I'm not gonna, they had a ton of offensive linemen at center they offered. They didn't get them. So, to say they've been selective, I think that they could have 10 more commitments if those guys had wanted to come.
Matt, it's Christmas week.
Okay. Yeah, so it's
Joy
great.
to the world. The Lord has come. Okay.
Now, in terms of who they actually got, they're fine. My definition of a free agent, as everybody knows, is somebody who's already played at a major program against major competition and done pretty well as a starter. And the only one they got that's done that is Charles Brantley, who was, dropped by Ole Miss because of his injury. He has some sort of serious injury, but he's, could be back full go for fall practice. I don't think he's practicing in the spring. And Miami's taking a chance on him. But if he's back full go, I mean, fantastic. And Xavier Lucas, if he ever gets into the portal, everything I'm being told is he wants to go in the portal because he likes Miami, which is, you're allowed to say that, right? You can't tamper, but the kid wants, from everything I'm talking to his friends and his former coaches, they say he loves Miami and wants to be at Miami. So if he goes in the portal, I have to think he's going to Miami. And that would be a free agent, right? So if you get, two free agents, if Charles Brantley is healthy, that's 2 free agent cornerbacks, 2 guys at the position you need the most. So I'm happy about that. I'm very happy about that if that happens. But the other guys, I know David Blay was ranked a top 5 defensive tackle in the portal, but I don't know that he will be. Those other guys they've taken in the past out of the portal were also highly ranked that didn't work out at Miami, right? From lower level programs. They took a chance on guys even like Anthony Campbell, who, wasn't highly rated, but they saw stuff in him. And some of these guys from programs that aren't major programs, they have not worked out. I'm trying to think of one, obviously the Jared Verses of the world, right, from Albany work out. But I'm trying to think of one that Miami's actually taken with Mario here on the defensive line that's worked out from a lower level program. I don't think I can think of one. I'd say Simeon Barrow, but he was from a major program, right? Tyler Barron wasn't particularly good, but he was from a major program. It's a little bit more of a risk, which you saw with CJ Daniels, right? Because everyone wanted him when he was coming in the portal last year. LSU got him. And after he had 1,100 yards and however many touchdowns the year before at a lower level program, he was their 4th leading receiver, and now he's in the portal again. And Miami got him, which is great, but that doesn't make him a free agent, right? And you can see there's just some players, it's not this smooth transition where, I had 1,100 yards at Liberty, or you name the program, and now I'm going to have 1,100 yards at LSU or Miami or Alabama. That's not really how it works. So some of those guys are wait and see, but I'm very optimistic with a guy like Brantley. If Xavier Lucas comes, those guys will be excellent as long as Brantley's healthy. And that's a huge deal for me. I mean, that's really important.
All right. Well, since you ruined everybody's Christmas here,
I just said they got two. They're getting two great
and
quarterbacks.
now they're going to be, uh, sitting in their living rooms with their stockings and Christmas trees, feeling miserable because the future of the Miami Hurricanes football program is on shaky ground. Given all that, I'm going to agree with you a little bit. I'm going to shock you and agree with you a little bit. I feel they need more. I do. And I am a little bit concerned right now at where the roster is going into next season. But I will preface that by saying that there's still time to get guys in the portal here. As long as they declare there's still going to be a spring portal session that a lot of teams, there figures to be a lot of action in the spring portal after players go through spring practices and they decide whether they're happy where they're at or not. So there are going to be more opportunities to add to the roster and make it better as these positions of need really expose themselves in spring practice. But yeah, I would have liked to see a little bit more too. And let's just talk about it a little bit. So quarterback, I actually wrote a column over the weekend talking a little bit about Cal's Fernando Mendoza. And nothing has happened with Fernando yet. He hasn't committed anywhere. We got some intelligence that Miami is on his radar, that, even though it's been kind of quiet in his camp, nobody's really talking, that Miami is something that they're thinking about. He would have to come in, he would have to compete with Emory Williams without guarantees. I mean, I don't think that Mario Cristobal would give him a guarantee saying you are definitely going to be the starting quarterback. That would be an injustice. Emory Williams has put in the time, and he deserves the opportunity to compete for that starting job. I don't have any problems, as much as I am an Emory believer, in saying that doesn't mean he shouldn't have to compete for it. And some people on the message boards over the weekend were getting a little bit butthurt at the thought of Miami bringing in somebody like Fernando Mendoza. And we don't know if it'll happen or not yet. But who says that any position on the football team is immune from competition? You want competition at every spot. Nobody is entitled to a starting position. Even a promising young quarterback who has 2 career starts to his name and handled himself relatively well. I just don't see how Mario puts the fate of the entire program right now in the hands of either Emory Williams, John Anderson, or Luke Nickel, 3 guys that do not have much of a track record in college football. So if they were to bring in somebody like Mendoza, I just personally think that would be a grand slam home run for the program, because you would create legitimate competition in spring practice. And you want those guys to feel pressure. You want them to be under the gun. It's not going to get any easier when the season comes in September. Miami opens against Notre Dame. Heck, I thought they should give Emory Williams the bowl game this week and not play Cam Ward, but it looks like Cam Ward is going to play. But I would have given Emory Williams that game and let him show me where he's at this stage of his development as we get ready to go into spring practice in March. So the bottom line is, if Miami's able to get a quarterback like Mendoza, and I'm not sure there's anybody else out there, that at least nobody I've seen that has his resume, I think it's a win-win-win-win for everybody, including Emory Williams, because the better the competition he's facing, the better that will make him be. And it will make him perform at the top of his whatever that level is. And then the coaches can make their decision. So I have no problems with any of it. I really hope that in the coming weeks that there becomes greater traction with Mendoza and Miami, and he ends up in this transfer portal class and comes to the U to try to see if he can win the job. Man, I'm going to stop there before I go to the rest of the positions. Your thoughts on adding a quarterback like Fernando Mendoza?
He doesn't really move the needle for me.
Why?
I don't think he's that different than when Mario could have recruited him and didn't. What is he showing at Cal that's made you think he's this elite quarterback? To me, you can bring him in and have him compete with Emory Williams. I think you need an experienced guy. I don't think that hurts at all. The fact that he has played and has reps under his belt, and he's fine. Is he going to be the top quarterback in the nation? No. Is he going to be a top 15 or 20 quarterback in the nation? Probably not, but he's a good game manager type quarterback. And maybe Miami's going to be fine like that. If their defense is good enough, which it wasn't this year, but if their defense is good enough, then Mendoza's going to be fine at quarterback, right? Because they have a really good running game. They should have a pretty good offensive line, and they'll have a decent enough system to where he'll be able to move the chains and be that kind of a quarterback. But, to me, we've seen what he can do, and he's good, not great. We've seen it. We haven't seen what Emory Williams can do. And, for Miami to win a national championship, you probably need great, right? So to me, I would put my money, I don't really bet, but I'd put my money on Emory Williams and let him run the show, because maybe he'll be that great guy. We've heard some really good things about him coming out of practices and that he looks great and da-da-da-da.
Your money's counterfeit.
Yeah, it is counterfeit money. I actually use Monopoly money, but that's the direction I would go. And now to bring in somebody to compete with Emory who has experience, I'm all for it. I have no problem with bringing Fernando Mendoza in. The question would be, why would he want to come in? He's coming in. Yeah, his dad knows Mario and played with Mario, but he was a guy who Mario,
It's home. He's from Miami, Columbus.
But he's the guy that Mario already had.
He would get the opportunity
to play at home. Yeah, if all he's looking for is play at home, then absolutely he'd want to come here. But
he would get a chance to play be in front of family and friends, and sure. If it doesn't work out, he still has 2 years of eligibility. He can go back in the portal.
Yeah, what I was trying to say was, I don't know why he'd come here if he's trying to be a starter, because I'm not sure he would be here. Whereas he could probably find a spot where he's more likely to be a starter.
It would be at worst 50-50. I mean, Emory Williams doesn't really have much of a resume. I mean, you're talking about a kid, Matt, who threw for let me say, I think it was 4,800 yards at Cal in the last 2 years. He has 32 touchdown passes in over the last 2 seasons. I mean, this is a guy that has done it in college football. Emory, as much as we both like him and think he's going to be very good, I mean, there's no guarantees there, and you're putting an entire season in someone's hands who hasn't done it yet. So I don't have a problem doing it, but I'd like to see him have to win the job over somebody who is proven and has performed on a college football field. I think it would be great. We usually don't agree, so it's fine, but
here's the thing. That's all I'm going to say about it. Emory Williams is Shannon Dawson's guy. Like, Shannon Dawson recruited Emory Williams. Shannon Dawson thinks Emory Williams fits his system perfectly. Now, Shannon Dawson was not here when Fernando Mendoza was in high school, but Mario Cristobal was, and Mario Cristobal did not offer Fernando Mendoza. Now, I don't know if Shannon Dawson thinks as highly of Mendoza as he does of Emory, but he certainly, he recruited Emory to be his guy, right? There's that built in. He knows, he's learned my system for 2 years. He's been my guy. I identified him myself versus, hey, here's a guy coming from Cal who was decent at Cal, not outrageously good, and now learn the system and be better than the guy that I picked. I don't know that he wants to come to that situation. That's all I'm trying to say.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I don't know either if it'll end up happening, but I did hear over the weekend that there had been some conversation about it. So that's why I wrote about it. And we will see what happens there. All right, so in terms of the portal, okay, Miami really didn't do much at running back. They did reach out to Lloyd Avant to try to set up a visit, but no, that did not come to fruition. And I'm kind of surprised they weren't a little bit more aggressive at running back, with A.J. Allen leaving, with Christopher Johnson leaving. They must feel pretty strongly that Damian Martinez is coming back, because otherwise the roster's a little thin on running backs with just Jordan Lyle there, and obviously you do always have the option of bringing Lofton to the running back position as a big back. We saw that a little bit during the season, but Mark Fletcher is obviously still going to be there, and we have a story with Mark on the website today that you guys could check out, talking about his season, looking ahead to the bowl game. But I did think that they would be a little bit more aggressive at running back. Let me mention also Gerard Pringle coming in, and Chris Wheatley-Humphrey is still on the roster as well. But I think they're light one pretty decent proven back, and I thought maybe they would be a little bit more aggressive than they were to get that, but they clearly have to this point decided not to be. Receivers, they've been trying to be aggressive. They've gone after Casey Concepcion from NC State. They've gone after Eric Singleton from Georgia Tech. But so far, they haven't been able to close the deal on those guys. But they did get a commitment out of LSU's C.J. Daniels, who has great belief in himself. Matt, he talks a very good game. I like where he is mentally coming into the Miami program. Your thoughts on C.J. Daniels and how impactful of a transfer portal acquisition that one is?
To be determined. He was at LSU, and he says, and his agent says, they didn't use him the right way, which is deep routes, right? If Cam Ward was the quarterback, I would say he'll do great, because Cam Ward makes these receivers look probably better than they are. And not that they're not good receivers, but I mean, a guy like Cam Ward will make you look really good, right? So a lot for CJ is going to hinge on the quarterback position. So I'm not as sure about how well he'll do, but I think him committing to Miami shows that he feels pretty sure that Miami's quarterback situation is good after watching Emory Williams in practice. He said that's really what convinced him to become a Hurricane, which is very encouraging. But he's played at a major program for 1 year and didn't do particularly well, and that's why he left. And I don't think that they were, that sad to see him go. So, I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh my gosh, we got C.J. Daniels. Who cares that Xavier Restrepo and Jacoby George and Sam Brown and Isaiah Horton are gone? Who cares? We got CJ. I'm not going to sit here and say that. It's a question mark. It's a question mark. He was a top receiver at the lower level. He struggled at LSU. He says they didn't use him the right way. Will Shannon Dawson use him whatever he perceives the right way to be? Maybe. Will that make him great? Maybe. Or he might just be, like Sam Brownish. I know when Sam Brown came in, you said he was a free agent, and I said I don't necessarily think he is, and I would argue he was not. And I'm going to sit here and say I don't think C.J. Daniels is a free agent right now. Like, I just haven't seen the production yet from him over a full year at LSU.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I'm a little concerned about the receiver position. I think we're gonna see a lot of JoJo Trader, Ray Joseph in the bowl game, maybe some Nikar. And I think we're going to come out of the bowl game with a much better idea of where Miami's at receiver going into next year. You do have the freshmen coming in who have promise. But it's going to be interesting. And I did think that they would be a little bit more aggressive in the portal than they really were at receiver. I mean, they tried to get guys, but they weren't able to close like a Concepcion or a Singleton or even a Zachariah Branch. I mean, there were a few guys they took shots with, and for whatever reason, they just were not able to get them. And so we'll see what happens. I think they need. I personally think they're a guy or two light at receiver going into next season. But we'll see. We'll see how things evolve here in the bowl game. We'll see how things evolve in the transfer portal. All right, on the defensive side of the ball, the Hurricanes landed a guy from Louisiana Tech that people say good things about by the name of David Blay. And, Matt, they had a battle for this guy. He was pretty highly rated in terms of defensive tackles in the portal. What are your thoughts on the commitment of David Blay?
Well, he jumps off the film, which is what everyone's talking about, right? All the talking heads are going to say, "Oh my gosh, look at how he moves on film. Look how he beats all these guys off the line and gets into the backfield and makes disruptive plays and da da da." And I say it all the time to you, Gary, and I tell other people. I mean, if you watch somebody's highlight tape in high school and they dominate, it doesn't mean they're going to dominate in college. They're playing against teams that sometimes suck and guys that are slow and you can't tell. Slow and not strong, and they have no punch on the offensive line. Like, again, it's easy to see his ability on the defensive line at the level at which he was playing. The question is, will he be that great at the next level? And he did play. There was one team that he played that was a high-level team that he did very well against last year, which is very encouraging. But I'm not going to sit here and say like that he's going to be this major star at the next level. Now, could he be the next Jared Verse? Yes, he could be. He looks really good on film. He really does. But by my definition, he's not a free agent until he's a free agent, and he's not a free agent yet. I called him a borderline free agent. Like, I like a lot of the stuff I've seen from him. Very much looks the part. I think he could be outstanding, but he has to do it. He has to do it. He hasn't done it against high-level opponents day in and day out. And I like the addition. Again, there's no 85 limit for Miami, right? The SEC is doing 85. The ACC is not. So I don't have this hang up anymore where I'm like, why are they taking away a freshman spot with these guys? The long snapper they took and the second kicker they took. They're not taking up spots anymore. It doesn't matter.
Thank God. I don't have to whine anymore.
Yeah, so I'm all for taking all these guys. Like, the more the better. Like, if Mario has the money to spend, and if you're not a guy who, if it's not a finite amount of money where, like, if he's taking 10 guys in the portal that are just another guy, and that's money they could spend for a free agent that they'll no longer have to do that, then I'm not for that. But if he feels that, like, taking guys for depth and to battle, and maybe they're not that good, but they're okay, and he's still gonna have the money for the free agents, then I'm fine with that. So I'm absolutely fine with every single portal guy they've taken. There's I think Mario knows what he's doing, unlike some people out there, and I think there's a reason he's taken all these guys. And I know he hasn't done great in the portal before, but the criticism of that was much more heightened because of the fact that they were taking spots from recruits, and that's not the case anymore. So I'm off that train of only take free agents. I'm now more on the line of Gary, which is, take guys to help for practice and for competition and free agents. With a 105 limit, that's how you do it. And so that's why some of these guys that you see them taking. That's why you see them trying to take shots at some other guys. And in some cases, they're not getting them because they don't want to pay the amount other schools are paying. But that's also because they're spreading this net so wide of just trying to take guys to compete, to start, not to start. And I think some of the guys coming in see that also, and they want to start. And they see, hey, at Miami, there's not the clear path to starting. I want to go to the NFL. I want to be a starter and show what I can do in 600 or 800 reps during the season. And so that, it's not necessarily Mario's fault that guys are bringing in, they're not getting them, right? Because there's a ton that visited that are not coming. And I could run down the list real quick because I have it right in front of me here. But these are visitors that went elsewhere already. Chasen Johnson to SMU, Eric Rivers to Georgia Tech. These are guys who's visited Miami, right? Makai Gabayer chose Missouri. Keyshawn Silver chose USC. Buck Buchanan chose Colorado. Matthew Alexander picked Georgia Tech. And then they have a bunch of guys who haven't announced yet. Emmanuel Carnley, Ethan O'Connor, Eric Singleton, Casey Concepcion, and a couple of others who visited. So they may not get even the majority of the visitors, which is unusual, right? Because usually Mario brings these guys in and he tries to close the deal. But that hasn't happened this portal cycle, and maybe that's not the end of the world.
All right, another position that I was really surprised they weren't more aggressive at was linebacker. You just mentioned Makai Gabier from Nebraska. He was the only guy that was really targeted and visited, but he picked Missouri a day after leaving in Miami. I mean, I don't know how badly they wanted to sign him, but that wasn't the greatest sign. And I think they need help at linebacker going into next season. So maybe something will develop in the spring portal. And it does look to me like they're being patient and willing to wait for the spring portal as needed, Matt. That's the only thing that I could figure out based on the patterns that we saw here over the last week or two in transfer portal recruiting. Not a lot of panic, not a lot of rush to judgment and stuff. We know that they're after a minimum of 5 cornerbacks to try to fortify the roster for next year. They were able to get Charles Brantley. That's one. And they got a safety, Jechariah Poyser from Jacksonville State. And you mentioned Xavier Lucas from Wisconsin, who we both feel very strongly about. When he finally does get in the portal. But in terms of commitment, that's it right now. And they still got, I think, a lot of work to do to get that position ready for next year. So I guess the theme of the transfer portal so far is got a few decent players, got a few special teams guys as well that I haven't mentioned yet. Let's see. They got Adam Booker, who's a long snapper out of Charlotte, and they got a kicker out of FAU, Carter Davis. But not as scintillating, not as aggressive as I expected when the portal opened. I think would be the best way that I would sum it up. But I'm not panicking either, because I understand that there is a lot of time left and so much more work that can be done here over the next several months, really, to try to make this roster better. And we won't really know till May, really, what the roster is going to look like. But am I comfortable with where it's at right now? Absolutely not. I'm not comfortable at all where it's at. But I am comfortable that there's still time to add some significant pieces to it. Matt, is that fair, you think?
I think they really want to have a lot of their team together for the spring practice. They really do. I don't think their choice is to go into the second transfer portal. I think that's a fail.
But they did last year. Remember, they got Simeon Barrow, they got Tyler Barron.
I know.
They found significant pieces in the spring.
No, you're not wrong. Cam Ward came in January, but yeah, you're not wrong. They added some pieces. They got Sam Brown in the second portal. They got people in the second portal. What I'm trying to say is they prefer to have the guys here in the spring, and if they don't get those guys, that's technically a fail, right? Then you got to go into the second portal window and try to find guys, and they can look for free agents in the second portal window, of course. But optimally, you're getting guys acclimated to your system starting in January, right? Otherwise, guys are coming in July, August, September. Maybe some of them graduate in May and they come on campus, start working out or whatever. But it's not the same integration into the system as you have with the guys that come in January. So yeah, in a perfect world, you can argue all you want, but Mario wants every portal guy that he needs in the first portal window. Of course he does. And he doesn't get them. And then he has to go in the second portal window, because you're right. He has a habit of taking his time, sometimes to his benefit, sometimes to his detriment. He does not rush into anything at all, whether it's hiring coaches, firing coaches, making decisions on personnel. He's very methodical about it and really likes to plan things out. Picture, an accountant, right? An accountant's not going to just guess how much you owe in taxes. He's going to have every single detail to the letter written down and planned out. And that's what Mario does. He plans out every single detail in advance, well in advance, what they need. Like, he knows exactly what he wants in the portal. And I'm sure he has also a list of people he thinks are going to go in the portal. And sometimes he gets them, sometimes he doesn't. And he has a certain number probably in mind for a bunch of them too. But yeah, of course they're going to get more guys in the second portal, because that's what you have to do. But it doesn't make it okay that you didn't get him in the first portal. You see what I'm saying? That's all I'm trying to point out.
All right, let me take a moment right now and talk a little bit about Game Time, gametime.co.com, or the Game Time app. Guys, you've heard me bring them up all season long as you shop for football tickets, as you shop for tickets for other sporting events, whether it be NFL games, NBA, NHL, theater, concerts, any event that you need a ticket for. GameTime.co or the Game Time app is your vehicle to land you the best deals at the best prices. They call them Game Time picks. That's their best. That's their best picks. Their new feature where they weed out all the clutter, and they bring you the most incredible deals on the greatest seats at any venue where you're going to see a sporting event or show. And they also have curated deals. They have super deals. They have last minute deals where you could get tickets even after the event begins. So it doesn't matter what your criteria is for shopping for tickets for an event. Game Time has you covered. And if you need tickets for the Pop-Tarts Bowl, for example, this weekend, you can go to Game Time and guarantee yourself that you get the best seats at the best prices anywhere online. And they got a couple nice little wrinkles to Game Time that I really like a little bit. One is the toggle switch, where you can get it all in pricing. One of the worst things about buying tickets is all the fees. And you might think you're buying something for $100 and you're really buying it for $200 because of all the fees that are tacked on. Well, you toggle that all-in pricing switch, and Game Time will give you the full price at first glance. No questions about what you're actually paying. They have some insurance for you. If you lose your job after you buy your tickets, you need your money back. They have job loss insurance. They also have event cancellation protection. So if your event gets canceled, you get your money back within 24 hours. That's always a great thing in those circumstances. So if you need tickets for anything coming up, go to gametime.co or use the Game Time app. And when you make your first purchase, you use the code ON3, ON3. They will give you $20 off your first purchase with Game Time. So buy your tickets in seconds with a couple clicks. Get the best deals you can find anywhere. It's Game Time. It's the Game Time app. What time is it? If you need tickets, it is Game Time. Make sure you check them out for whatever you need. All right, a couple more things I want to talk about this morning. We do have you're going to be seeing a lot of recruiting coverage. We're starting to really get into the 2026 class. We're also taking a look from the coaches' lenses of some of the prospects that signed in the 2025 class. You can check all those things out. We have a story today on 2026 target, Larry Miles. He's going to be at the bowl game, so you can read up on that. We went out to see four-star quarterback commit Darion Coleman this past weekend and got an update on him. And, man, is he an impressive kid. He's got some real arm talent, Matt. If this kid, he's a little on the small side right now, but he still has a year of high school left. So really a year and a half before, a little over almost a year and a half before he has to compete on a college football field. And if this kid could put some size on his frame, he's going to be a really good prospect for the Hurricanes. He slings the ball around. Looks a lot like Cam Ward, the way he delivers football from different arm angles and such. So I'm excited about Darion Coleman. We'll see how he continues to grow and develop. And last but not least, Matt, there's a column on the website this morning that you wrote about the basketball team. They dropped to 4-8 now with this overtime loss over the weekend to St. Mary. And man, this has just been a horrible run. We're trying. We love Jim Larinaga. We're trying not to be too negative about it, but the basketball program's done a lot of losing the last two seasons, and this one's looking like it's going to be a total disaster. And you just have to wonder, maybe did Jim Larinaga hang on just a little too long after that Final Four run? He's really been struggling with the portal and putting the right pieces together. Or does he get defiant and say, I'm not quitting, I'm not going out like this, and think that, man, I could still make this thing better for next year? But right now, you got to be a little concerned about the Miami basketball program, Matt.
And this is the FSU football team playing basketball, because 2 years ago, he had three portal guys who arrived via the portal, via NIL.
Great point.
Who took Miami to the Final Four. And, that roster's been blowing up, right? And they brought in all these portal guys this year, and they're now, I think, 4-18 in their last 22 games, with just a bunch of different guys. And if I remember correctly, I think 5 of the top 6 scorers, six of the top 7 scorers, I'm pretty sure came to Miami via the portal. So this is not the team that Jim Larinaga coached at George Mason. This is not the team that Jim Larinaga coached when he took over at Miami. This is a whole different animal. And I also, I've watched Miami practices, okay? And I know Jim Larinaga himself is a really, really good coach. He knows basketball. Nothing's changed. He's not, lost his marbles and become a terrible coach. A lot of what he does, which I think is smart, is he relies on his assistant coaches to teach techniques, to teach fundamentals, to make sure every player understands all the intricacies of different things on the floor. And, Jim's been dealing with severe back injuries for several years now. He can't be out there running around with the guys and, running up to a guy, getting in his face in practice and telling him what to do and running to the next guy. He relies very heavily. And his voice is very loud, by the way, in the practices. Don't get me wrong. He's involved heavily in the practices. But he relies to an extreme level on his assistants. And, you saw one of his best assistants took a head coaching job at Towson 2 or 3 years ago. You have to have great assistants, assistant coaches, just like in football, right? It's no different. So everyone wants to blame Jim Larinaga. I would argue that it trickles down from him, and there's a major issue with the way the assistants are coaching and making sure players understand things. There's a total disconnect because I don't wholly just blame Jim Larrañaga. I think it's a wholesale problem in this program of portal guys not, just not hitting on portal guys, right? Because they have the money to spend on it, everything I've heard, not gelling. And then I don't think they're getting coached up. You can just watch the games and you can see they're not being coached properly. They don't understand what to do. They don't play as a team. They don't know what they're supposed to do. And it's not that they don't want to be good. They don't want to lose games, but they're lost out there. And their defense is a shambles. And it's not just because one guy was injured or Nigel Pack, missed a few games. I mean, it's not one guy. This is a bad team. This is a program that right now is floundering. And you know what? You have to wait till next year to fix it. But the good news is, just like for Florida State had some good news, right? You can fix it very easily with some money. This is not the old days where you're stuck with 8 guys the next year who were all terrible the previous year. They can get rid of every single guy if they wanted to and bring in a whole new team next year. So
they've been spending money.
The other thing is, for fans that do want Larrañaga fired, that want Lance Guidry fired, if you notice, I don't know if fans have noticed this or not, towards this part of the season, usually there's mass firings of assistant football coaches and even head football coaches. I mean, every program in the country usually has at least somebody that they're kicking out, out the door. That's not happening this year. And the reason is it costs money to bring in top assistant coaches. It costs money to hire a new head coach with all of his assistants that he wants to bring in. It costs money to buy out a contract of a coach. And you know what that money is? That money is called NIL money, because it's all the same pot now, because these programs now are basically controlling the money. That's the new thing, right? It's the universities are controlling the money. So if you want Lance Guidry gone, fine, you can say that, but you're paying his buyout. And if you want to bring in a great defense coordinator, like a top shelf defense coordinator, that's money that could have been a free agent that season. So which one would you rather have? Do you think Lance Guidry is that bad that he can't coach great players? Or do you want to bring in a new coordinator and an entire new staff and have him coach players who aren't free agents anymore because you can't afford as many free agents? I don't know the answer. I'm just throwing it out there. No. And the same thing for Larrañaga. You can certainly fire Larrañaga and pay. He has a contract through 2026, 27, if I remember correctly. You can certainly fire him and pay whatever you owe him and bring in the greatest coach in college basketball, and he'll bring his whole staff with him and pay them a fortune to come to Miami and turn around the program. But that's money that's being taken out of the NIL budget, not just for basketball, but for football. It's all the same pot. I know basketball does have its own money for basketball they raise. I get it. But at the end of the day, the university has a certain amount of money that they have, period. And if they want to distribute some of it to basketball, they can. If they want to distribute some of it to football, they can. And I understand both are separate entities also raising their own NIL funds. But, these are questions that Dan Radakovich has to figure out, because at the end of the day, you need to win games, and you can't just listen to fans saying, fire this guy, fire that guy, and now you're just in a money hole and a money pit, and you're not getting all the free agents everyone else has money they're throwing around with because they're not changing all their coaches around every year. So, I think you're sort of stuck. Personally, I think you're stuck with the coaches you have. It wouldn't surprise me if Lance Guidry's back. It wouldn't surprise me if Jim Larrañaga's back. And I think fans have to sort of back off and just recognize the new normal is keeping perceived bad coaches at the expense of getting great players, because my personal opinion is I'd rather have bad coaches with great players than great coaches with bad players. I've seen bad coaches with great players. The guy's name was Larry Coker, and they won a national championship. And I've seen the inverse. Great coaches with bad players, and that does not work. It doesn't mean you do not win national championships with bad players, no matter who your coach is. I am sorry. So to me, I just think in this day and age, you're stuck. Like, it's not a great situation. But if you want to win games now and you're not worrying about 3 or 4 years down the road with a new coaching staff and then raising the money after that, unless there's a billionaire that wants to throw a lot of money your way to do it. That's just what you're stuck with. And that's what Florida did, right? Florida got all this money because they were going to fire their coach. And hey, Florida fans, we're going to be stuck. We're going to have nobody on the team. We need you to pay the buyout. So give us all these millions of dollars. And you know what? They stepped up, and the boosters and the fans gave millions and millions of dollars. And then Florida started winning, and they're keeping the coach, and all that money they raised. There's a reason they're getting all these top free agents in the portal. They're spending all their money and getting recruits. All that money was supposed to fire their coach, and now it's going to the portal. So it's the inverse when you actually fire the coach and don't have the money in place, right? Because they're not raising money. There's no mass, hey, we need money to get rid of Larrañaga and get a top coach. There's no mass event happening right now among the Miami boosters. There's no, hey, here's a $3 million, get rid of Lance Guidry and hire new defensive backs coaches. There's none of that out there right now, and maybe Mario in the darkness of his basement, is working on that. But even if you get that money, and I'm Mario, I want that $3 million for free agents. So that's my DNR, my daily negative rant, not my do not resuscitate, and I'm out. Can we go?
Yeah.
Can we go about our day now?
I'm not sure they can't do both. I'm not sure.
Chew gum and walk and smoke cigars. Yeah, I get it, Gary.
Exactly.
You want to do everything.
I don't see why you got to do
world. Everything happens perfectly for you. I understand.
But we will see. Big decisions ahead for basketball and big decisions ahead for Mario Cristobal with football. Will he tinker with his staff here in the offseason? I personally think he will, but we will talk more about that after the bowl game and onward and see what happens there. All right, that's going to do it for today for Good Morning CaneSport. We thank you so much for starting out your day with us. We may do we'll see what happens if there's any developments. We'll do a show tomorrow, but in case we don't, I want to wish everybody Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. Hope you enjoy your time with your family. We'll be heading up to Orlando later in the week for the Pop-Tarts Bowl, but also the Under Armour All-Star game we will be at as well. A lot of Miami targets, a lot of Miami commits are participating in that game. We'll be bringing that coverage to you this week as well. But for now, for Matt Shodell, I'm Gary Ferman. Thank you again, everybody, and we will see you next time.